Welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm your host, Josh Sprague, proud president of the #1 club in the universe. A special welcome today to all our guests and visiting Rotarians and visiting speakers today. We're looking forward to an awesome 2020 Chrysanne Manoles Women in Leadership Awards program. So please remember, as we get started here, to mute your audio during presentations today. Rename yourself in the participants list as we are taking attendance. If we can't recognize your name, it'll be hard for us to mark you as present. You can also do that by hovering over your video square and touching the 3 dots in the right-hand corner and hitting rename. Also, please use the chat for comments. I love a chatty meeting. Feel free to get in there and talk to each other. And if you have any questions during the presentation, put those in the chat as well. And just as a reminder, today we are recording this meeting, and people will be watching this video on YouTube for makeups. So I don't want to spoil the 30+ year history of women in Rotary that Jennifer Bennerotte will cover in masterful detail today. But I do want to mention that the Rotary Club of Edina has a long legacy of very successful women in leadership. And we cannot thank these leaders enough for their many significant contributions and achievements for our club. In the current Rotary year, we built on this strong legacy by assembling a board comprised of 40% women, or 6 out of 14 positions, including Kelly Burnett, Director of Community Service Grants, Jennifer Hendrickson, Director of Public Image, Susan Stiles, Director of the Rotary Foundation, Renee Harberts, Director of Social, Lisa Walker, Director of Community Service Projects, and Shelley Loberg, Director of International Service. In the coming Rotary year under Sam Thompson, we will have the most female board ever in the 63-year history of the club, with 60% of the board being comprised of women in leadership, or 8 out of 14 positions, including our new officer, Shelley Loberg, who will be our president in the 2023-24 Rotary year. Having come from a household of great women, I am proud and grateful to be a member of a Rotary Club that holds women in such high esteem, that values their perspectives and talents, and that elevates them to the highest positions of leadership. My great hope is that as the Rotary Club of Edina has shattered its glass ceiling, so too does our parent organization. And let's all hope that in the coming years, we witness the first ever woman leader of Rotary International. And now, speaking of superlative and dynamic women leaders, it's my pleasure to share a video from Community Service Grants Director Kelly Burnett, who will share her perspective on this year's theme, Rotary Connects the World. Good.
At first, I thought I was joining Rotary to, give back to the community, but didn't realize what I would get out of it with the connections, both personal, professional connections, mentorships. We have some great business owners in our group. It's awesome to network with them every week and just always upping my game and developing myself, because it's such a great network of people who can, have had experiences in things that you can bounce ideas off of. So that was one of the biggest, surprises to me, outside of, personal friendships. If you want to be connected to your community and know what's going on and be connected to the people who are the movers and shakers in that community and making things happen and making a difference, Rotary is the place to be.
Awesome. And now I'd like to thank today's volunteers who helped make this meeting possible, and invite Catherine Gump to lead us in the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, and 4-way test. Catherine?
Thank you, Josh. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we are thankful that we are a diverse and vibrant community of men and women. Some of us older in age, some of us younger. Some longtime Rotary members, and some of us newer to Rotary. And all of us bringing different life experiences to our club. We are grateful that in our diversity, we are better able to serve our local and international communities, and that our fellowship is richer. During these extraordinary times, we are thankful for the blessings we have received, but mindful of the struggles and uncertainties many of us face. We pray that we are always thoughtful of opportunities to serve our fellow citizens and our community. Keep us well so we can serve. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen. Josh, will you advance to the pledge? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America and to the republic
for which
for
it
which
stands,
it stands, one nation,
under God,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty and
liberty
justice for all.
and justice for all. And now for our four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first,
is it the truth?
Is it the
the
truth?
truth?
Fair to all concerned.
Third, will it
Will it
build
build
goodwill and better
friendships?
And fourth, will it
be
be
beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Okay. Jennifer Bennerotte is going to tell us a little bit about the recent member survey. Jennifer?
Thanks, Josh. About 2 weeks ago, we've launched a COVID-19 survey of our members. If you want to advance to the next slide, I'll share just a few highlights from that. We had, to date, 77 members have completed the survey. That's not quite half of our club, so I would really encourage any of you who have not completed it to please do so, to give both Josh and Sam and their respective boards of directors a better sense of how our members are feeling about gathering as a club in the midst of the pandemic. To date, though, the survey results do show that about half of our club members are ready to meet again in person when guidance allows. Earlier, I think it was announced that the Edina Country Club might be ready to have us back as early as the first week in June. However, based on Governor Walz's guidance of earlier this week, that's not going to be possible. As of June 1st, restaurants can open, but only outdoors. But we continue to move that dial. So I do think that sometime this summer, we will get the green light to meet in person again. Our survey also shows that our members are recognizing that some changes to our typical meetings will be necessary. We asked people to list some things that they might expect and some themes. No more handshakes, at least in the near term. Distancing will be required. Arranging tables further apart, further space between each chair at each table. And then I regret to say that we have recognized that the ERBB, the Edina Rotary Big Buffet that we've typically offered the third Thursday of the month, we're going to have to probably push pause on that. I'm sure Scott McDonald is really sad. That was something that we implemented when he was president, but it's just really important that we keep our germs to ourselves right now. So again, those are some high level things that we're seeing right now. Please complete the survey if you've not already done so. If you have other feedback, please do share it with Josh and Sam.
Thanks again, Jennifer, for facilitating the dialogue with our members on these issues. Okay, another member service announcement. For those of you that have missed any programs and would like to keep your perfect attendance rating at 100%, we do offer makeups via YouTube. Here's a picture of our YouTube site. All you have to do is Google Edina Rotary YouTube, and this page will come up, and we have a whole bunch of different videos you can watch. After you're done watching the video, shoot an email to Becky. This is all on the honor system, and your makeup is done. Also, as we mentioned last week, we have a new text notification service. For those of you that have signed up, we haven't started messaging yet. We're looking to get enrollment up. All you need to do to join this is text Rotary to 22452. Someone asked why we're doing this. This is another notification service for meetings and other important announcements. As people come and go from different states, we have people coming and going and traveling, less now, but people are still moving around. And as some people prefer text to email, this is just one more way to give a touch to our members to let them know what's going on. So again, text Rotary to 22452 and join us. And now a quick congratulations goes out to Tim Murphy. Tim, are you on the call? Tim Murphy? Okay.
Tim is here.
Tim is here. At last week's annual District 5950 meeting, club delegates elected Tim Murphy as a District 5950 representative to the zone nominating committee. Congratulations, King Tim. And can you tell us briefly about your position?
Thank you, Josh, and thank our club for the nomination to do it. Josh, no thank you for the picture you're portraying. Our club is phenomenal at photosmithing my pictures, so good job. Anyway, so there are 17 directors in the world for Rotary International. Usually there are about somewhere between a third and a half of them from our country. The rest are from the rest of the world. Each Rotary International director is responsible for a 2-zone pair. There are 34 zones in the world. Of our 2-zone pair, we are zone 29, and we are paired with zone 25B, which is 7 districts in Texas. Last year, they had the responsibility of nominating the next Rotary International director for our zone. This year, it is our responsibility. So I will chair the districts that bring forth nominations for Rotary International Director that will be the next director to lead our 2-zone pair. And that's
Awesome.
predominantly the responsibility.
Awesome, Tim. We're glad to have you representing all of us. Thanks again for that explanation.
Thanks, Josh.
Okay, now it's time for 2 classification talks. The first one is from new member Greg Gable. Greg, take it away and let me know when you want me to advance to your pictures.
All right, thank you, Josh. So my name is Greg Gable. My classification is investments, and I've been a member for about a year now, and Royce was my sponsor. I was born in Columbia Heights, and despite traveling a lot, both personally and for my job, I've never had to relocate. So I've been in the Twin Cities my whole life. I currently live in Edina, not far from the Edina Country Club. I have 3 children. Josh, if you could put up the first picture. So my 3 children, Jacob, Sophia, and Leah. So Jacob just finished his freshman year at Clemson. He's an Army ROTC cadet and economics major. Then my first daughter, Sophia, is going to be entering her senior year at Providence Academy. Then my youngest daughter, Leah, is going to be entering 8th grade at Providence Academy. And on the left is a picture of me with my wife, Sylvie. And Sylvie and I are expecting another child in October. And we're very excited because tomorrow she has her checkup, and we're going to find out the gender of our next baby. So we're very excited about that. Career-wise, I started my career as an investment accountant, and I did the accounting for a mutual fund that invested in mortgage-backed securities and bonds. And so that gave me the knowledge of how mortgages worked and how mortgage bonds worked. And once I gained that, I switched companies to a company called GMAC ResCap, which was located in Bloomington, and I became a mortgage bond and loan trader. And I did that for about 5 years. And then I changed hedge funds, and I went to Carvel Investors, which is located in Hopkins, Minnesota. And I was their mortgage bond and mortgage loan trader there for the past 12 years. If anyone's not familiar with Carvel, they were the hedge fund subsidiary of Cargill. And then at the end of last year, they were sold and are now a private company. And then at the end of March, I actually left Carvel and I started my own company now with my cousin, who is also in the same industry as me. And so we're trading mortgage bonds and mortgage loans for large institutional investors amongst the network of contacts that we've built up over the years. So it's been an exciting and at times frustrating launch of a new business, but my cousin and I feed off of each other very well. And with our different network of contacts, we're able to get some things done. And we've been in business 3 weeks. So things have been going very well so far. On the hobby front, certainly like to travel. That's what kind of led me to Rotary in the first place. Is I've been to Africa 8 times. It's one of my favorite places to visit. And through my trips, I would meet Rotarians there that were doing very good works. And I wanted to learn more about Rotary International. And I'm like, wow, this is a very large institution with a lot of good people from my interaction. And so when I came back from one of my trips, I Googled, found out Edina had its own Rotary Club, and was introduced to Royce, and then he helped me through the membership process. My other hobby is I like to collect baseball cards, vintage baseball cards, much to the dismay of my daughters, because they don't understand why they have limited spending each month, that they can only get 1 or 2 packages from Amazon, but yet their dad seems to get a package every day with a different baseball card in it. And the other thing I've noticed is I buy most of my baseball cards off of eBay, and I focus on ones from my childhood. And I've noticed that the word vintage is used more and more in seller listings of the cards from my childhood. So I guess I'm slowly becoming vintage as well. So I'm happy to be a member of the club, and thank you very much, Josh.
Greg, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing with us today, and we're grateful to have you as a member.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mike Tingham. Mike?
Get unmuted here. Hi, I'm Mike Tingham, and my classification is business law. Joe Christensen is my sponsor, so you may have seen me at a meeting or 2 with him, and I've also been to several of the Rotary galas that you guys have put on, and so that was kind of my initial experience with Rotary. I was born and raised in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and I was a middle child. Got an older sister and a younger brother. My sister's an actress out in New York City. She gets murdered a lot on TV, which is fun to see as a brother. And then my brother does cybersecurity out in Ohio. And my parents jointly own a law firm in Grand Forks. So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree with me. I got an accounting degree from UND, just like my dad did. And then I went to UND Law School, just like both my parents. And then I worked for their law firm for a couple of years, practicing there. So I kind of followed in their footsteps, and then I met my wife, Courtney, when I was in college, and you can jump to the picture there. That's us in Alaska on a fishing trip. And she's initially from Cottage Grove, so when she finished up with physical therapy at UND, she moved back to Minnesota, and I followed. We got married shortly thereafter, and while I was waiting for my bar stuff to transfer over to practice in Minnesota, I worked at Rapacki and Company, the accounting firm in Edina. And so that was my first exposure to Edina. I really liked it. And then I ended up getting a job with Christensen and Lowy Law Firm. And I'm sure most or all of you know Joe Christensen. And then Kenny Smith from our office was a member of the club before he moved to Colorado. So you guys, I guess, have some experience with our firm in your club. And we currently live, or my wife and I live in Egan. No kids yet. We've got a couple dogs. One of them's right here. He doesn't leave my side when I'm at home here, but it's his 2nd birthday, Chopper. He's a big hunting dog, so we spend a lot of time together. And then our other dog is outside. She's a pit bull rescue mix thing, pretty much a cat. But more about my career. I'm a partner at Chrysanne Manoles right now, and I've been there for the last 4 years. I still maintain my North Dakota bar, which comes in handy from time to time, but for the most part, most of my clientele is in Hennepin County and the surrounding metro area. And what I mainly focus on is business and real estate, and then I do some estate planning as well. My practice is primarily transactional, dealing with mergers and acquisitions, commercial and residential, real estate transactions, commercial leasing, forming entities, drafting contracts, that type of thing. But I do get involved with evictions and other litigation that kind of relates to the areas of practice that I work with. I'm an avid hunter, like I mentioned, and fisherman. And so when I'm not in the office, I try and spend as much time as I can doing that. My wife and I really enjoy traveling and doing guided fishing trips. So the picture there is us in Alaska. We've also fished in the Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, Alaska, Arizona. Most recently, we were just in Washington right before the pandemic hit. I caught my first steelhead, so that was a lot of fun. And I play guitar, and I have a bit of a collector mentality similar to Greg there, it sounds like. I also collect Super Nintendo games, which is a weird thing to collect, and they're listed as retro, not vintage quite yet, but I spend a lot of time collecting those, and it's a fun, nostalgic habit, fun, nostalgic thing to collect. But I never really play those. They just kind of sit on a shelf. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm looking forward to when the pandemic ceases, getting coffee with a lot of you, and maybe getting to some of those Rotary happy hours and getting to know you all a little bit better.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Yeah.
And welcome to the club.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for today's program, and it's my honor and privilege to introduce Jennifer Bennerotte. Jennifer joined the club in November 2004 and was sponsored by Seal Smith. Jennifer's classification is communications, and Jennifer serves as a director of communications and technology for the city of Edina. Jennifer was president of our club in the 2015-16 Rotary year, when the presidential theme was "Be a Gift to the World." And what a gift she is to our club. From today's Women in Leadership Awards to drafting and amending our bylaws, designing and printing invites, banners, signage, and brochures, serving as an officer in District 5950, ordering gifts for members and presidents, coordinating Andy and Elmer's literacy project, serving on the foundation board, and on and on and on. The list is simply too long to recite here today. But suffice it to say that Jennifer's service at our club touches much of what we do every day. And her many contributions are at the very heart of what makes the Rotary Club of Edina such a success. Jennifer and her family, including husband Matt and son Jack, live in Cannon Falls, somewhere between 45 minutes and 2 hours from Edina, depending on the traffic. And Jennifer has spent 9.4% of her life in the car, which she tells me has been a great place to do some thinking. Please help me welcome my friend and fellow Rotarian, Jennifer Bennerotte.
Wow. Thank you for that really, really nice and unexpected introduction, Josh. I appreciate it. We use this meeting each year to reflect back on the history of women in Rotary, and then we move forward in recognizing the outstanding women who make Edina such a strong community. But first, let's start with that annual history lesson. Rotary clubs, of course, got their start from the visions of Chicago attorney Paul Harris, who formed the first Rotary Club in 1905, with the idea that professionals should gather, who have diverse backgrounds, exchange ideas, and give back to their communities while forming meaningful lifelong relationships. Although Rotary clubs, of course, have been dedicated to that idea of service for over a century now, many were not always fond of the idea of women joining the clubs. Josh, did you happen to set up that first Zoom poll? Excellent. So my first question for you guys today is, which country first proposed that the word male be deleted from the standard Rotary Club Constitution. So go ahead and submit your votes for which country you think that was. All right, Josh, can you show the results? I suspected that many of you would guess that the United States was the first country to propose that. But in fact, the three of you who guessed India are correct. It was in 1950 when a Rotary Club in India first made that proposal that the word male be stricken from the Rotary Club Constitution. Nothing else really happened in the 50s. In the 1960s, the Council on Legislation for the Rotary International Convention had two proposals to allow women in clubs. And then again, nothing happened, nothing came of it. By 1972, so 22 years since that first proposal out of India, more women were reaching professional positions, high positions within their organizations, and more clubs across the world began lobbying for female members. It was in that year, 1972, when the first official proposal to admit women came before the Rotary Council on Legislation. Again, nothing happened. In 1977, despite three more official proposals, remember that the Council on Legislation only meets every 2 years, women still weren't members. At that time, a club in Duarte, California, chose to admit women to their club anyway. When Rotary International found out about it, they kicked that club out of Rotary International and told them they couldn't use the Rotary brand anymore. That club, which has been nicknamed the Club That Roared, it was just a very, very small club. They continued to meet anyway, even though they couldn't call themselves a Rotary Club. Between 1980 and 1986, now 30 years since that first proposal, we started to see more and more requests for women to join, and the Duarte Club in California officially filed a lawsuit against Rotary International. Rotary International, though, won that case. In 1986, there was a breakthrough when the California Court of Appeals reversed the lower court's decision. The California Supreme Court refused to hear the case, though, and the appeal moved forward to the United States Supreme Court, where the Duarte Club was eventually reinstated. 37 years after that first proposal to allow female members into Rotary, on May 4th, 1987, the US Supreme Court ruled that Rotary clubs could no longer exclude women from membership on the basis of gender. That same year, the Rotary Club of Duarte elected its first female president. Again, that Council on Legislation only meets every 2 years. So even though the US Supreme Court had said in 1987, you have to admit women, it wasn't until 1989 that the Council of Legislation caught up with that action and amended the Rotary Constitution to allow female members. I'd like to think our club is nearly as forward thinking as the Rotary Club of Duarte, California. We welcomed our very first female member, Chrysanne Manoles, a year before it was officially allowed. We welcomed Chrysanne to our club in 1988. Jean Morrison, I'm not sure if she's on the call today. She joined Rotary shortly after Chrysanne. She serves as the longest serving female member of our club because Chrysanne left us for a brief time to start the Rotary Club of Orono before she came back to us. And as you heard, if you were on the call before we began today, she's now part of a club out in Denver, Colorado. Our first female president was Patty Ellinson Solheim, who served in 2001 and 2002, when ironically, the Rotary theme was "Mankind is Rotary's Business." Patty paved the way for other women to become president of our club, including Sandy Schley, Ellen Kennedy, me, Ann Platt, and eventually Shelley Loberg. That 1989 Council on Legislation vote to admit women into Rotary clubs remains a watershed moment in our organization's history. With women being welcomed into Rotary, by 1990, there were approximately 20,000 female Rotarians around the world. By 1995, there were 8 female Rotary district governors, and by 2005, a female had been appointed as a trustee of the Rotary Foundation. And as both Josh and Tim mentioned earlier in the meeting, we are really hoping for our first Rotary International president to wear a skirt in the very short term. Today, we are well over 200,000 female Rotarians working along our male clubmates, all working together to serve our communities. Our meeting is a celebration of women who make our community better. In Chrysanne's honor, as the first woman to join our club, and to celebrate the good work of women throughout Edina, our club for the 11th consecutive year sought nominees for a Women's Leadership Award. We make this presentation annually in May because May was the month that the Supreme Court ruled that Rotary could not exclude women from membership. We also make this presentation in May because it's the anniversary of Chrysanne's membership in Rotary. As of May 1st, Chrysanne has been a Rotarian for 32 years. So now I would like to turn things over to Chrysanne, who will honor our 2020 winner. Thank you, Chrysanne.
Jennifer, thank you so much. I noticed that our honoree is on our call today. And today we are honoring Kathy Rendelman. She has led the Edina Education Fund as Executive Director since 2016. Her service to the Education Fund consistently demonstrates Rotary's 4-way test in her thought process and actions. An excellent example is her leadership of the Education Fund sponsorship of the Edina Meal Fund COVID-19 response. The diligence with which Kathy has led the Education Fund in past years prepared the organization with the necessary platform of sound financial management, an updated website, and a secure means of accepting donations. This allowed to quickly respond to the food insecurities of Edina Public Schools students and families that has become acute during the pandemic quarantine. Kathy has been a collaborative partner with the Edina School District, Edina Give and Go, and the founders of the Edina Meal Fund to assist in organizing the fundraising efforts as well as food procurement and meal packing. Kathy's work has gone above and beyond her specific role of managing the Education Fund's finances, messaging, and website. Each week since the meal response began, she has personally purchased grocery gift cards and fresh produce for the meal bags and has assisted with packing. She has led conversations to ensure that outreach to families is equitable and of the highest quality they are able to provide. Collaboration is a hallmark of Kathy's service and personal dedication. She's a willing partner in staying connected with the Edina Public Schools leadership teams in the administrative offices and at each of the district's 10 sites. In addition, Kathy is often the Education Fund's lead representative in communicating with individual and corporate donors, as well as with community partner organizations such as Edina Rotary, where she worked closely with us to launch the Edina Rotary Global Scholars Program. Every connection is essential to meeting the Edina Fund's mission of supporting the educational needs and opportunities for all Edina Public School students with goodwill, transparency, and equity. Kathy's services go beyond the Education Fund with her commitment to supporting our community. As a parent of 4 children, Kathy's a regular participant in all of their activities. Her work is not only for the benefit of her own kids, but for every student involved. At Creek Valley Elementary, Kathy served as PTO president. For her kids' dance teams, Kathy sews costumes late into the evening. For the Edina Band program, Kathy's a reliable volunteer behind the scenes and in chaperoning field trips. The same is true for Kathy in the theater program and any other group with which her family is involved. If there's a need identified for one student, Kathy makes sure that the need is met for all students. It's with great pride that we honor Kathy Rendelman with our 2020 Women in Leadership Award. For this prestigious honor, Kathy will have shipped to her home not only a beautiful plaque, but a Paul Harris Fellowship, Rotary's highest honor. Kathy, you were selected to receive this recognition because the Rotary Club of Edina believes that your life exemplifies the humanitarian and educational objectives of the Rotary Foundation. We thank you for demonstrating in your life and vocation a commitment to helping people. Congratulations, Kathy.
Wow, I have to admit that's not why I thought I was on this call today. So I'm very pleasantly surprised. Thank you very much for everything that you have said. I'm a little taken aback because I didn't realize that this was going on today. But I would say that it is a labor of love, and every single day I hope I can do more.
Well, Kathy, I'm really glad we were able to surprise you today. I'm very proud of you, and I'm proud to know you. I first met Kathy almost 20 years ago when we were taking early childhood family education classes together at the Edina Community Center. Her son, Charlie, and my oldest son, Jack, are about the same age. In fact, Charlie is the only boy from Edina who's ever invited Jack to a birthday party. So my one Edina birthday party experience was with the Rendlemans. Again, we were never invited to another party. It might have been because Jack plugged the toilet during the party. We still laugh and are a bit embarrassed about that, but it's been fun to watch your children grow up and all that you've done in our community, Kathy, and we're really, really proud of you and appreciative of all you do for Edina.
Well, thank you. And thank you to the Edina Rotary for all that you do for our community, because it is outstanding and it's a privilege to be a partner of yours.
Thank you, Kathy. It is now time to welcome back our 2019 Chrysanne Manoles Women in Leadership Award winner, Laura Hope Melton. Hope is the founder and chair of the community organization Edina Neighbors for Affordable Housing. Hope is a very passionate, articulate, disciplined, and tenacious advocate for affordable housing in our community. Under her leadership, Edina Neighbors for Affordable Housing, which began just a few years ago in 2017, is now an organization of well over 100 people. As you'll hear in her speech in just a minute, Edina Neighbors for Affordable Housing encourages the 3 Ps of affordable housing: preserving existing affordable housing, protecting the current tenants of affordable housing, and producing even more affordable housing. So please join me now in welcoming the 2019 Chrysanne Manoles Women in Leadership Award winner, Hope Melton, as today's speaker to tell us a bit more about her organization.
Thank
Hope,
you.
take it away.
Right, no applause. Thank you and congratulations to Kathy for this year's award. You're doing wonderful work. I am deeply honored and delighted to be with you today. And hopefully, I never read a presentation like this before over Zoom. So I'm hoping that we'll have time for some questions and discussion at the end. I'll start with a brief background about Edina Neighbors for Affordable Housing. But before I start, I want to really stress that what we have accomplished has been the result of great teamwork. We have a wonderful leadership team, and this is Arnie Bigby, Barry Rosenthal, Carol Bromer, Carolyn Jackson, Chris Bremer, Emily Betke, Jeanette Foles, Steve Brown, and Tom Kuhn. We started, as Jennifer said, in the fall of 2017. We are dedicated to our 3 Ps: preserving what Edina has in terms of affordable housing, protecting its tenant population, that's all its tenant population, and producing more affordable housing in order to meet the Metro Council's forecast of need for Edina of 1,220 additional units by the year 2030. And when I get to this end of this presentation, you'll see part of why it's that number. Our organization collaborates with the City Council. We've really entered into partnership with them and affordable housing teams throughout the West Metro area. What do? We educate the public about affordable housing. We write letters to council, we attend and testify at public hearings, and we generally organize the community to support affordable housing. We created an affordable housing policy platform that was presented to the HRA in January of 2019. And that platform, again, this is collaboration, included specific policy recommendations that reinforced those of the Edina Human Rights and Relations Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Race and Equity Task Force. The city has now adopted most of those recommendations. Tenant protection ordinances await the city's completion of its rental building licensing program. So what are the benefits of affordable housing? It might seem obvious. First, to say that the standard definition of affordable is that households pay no more than 30% of their income for housing. It's essential to recognize that economic and social development are interrelated and interdependent. We sometimes consider them separately for purposes of analysis, and we often forget their interdependence. That is the interdependence of economic and social development. Forgetting that interdependence is an overly narrow and false view of reality, and it often leads to faulty decision-making. Social development is the more inclusive term, since we're talking about the context, or it's really an ecosystem of labor force reproduction. Housing, healthcare, education, economic development, and transportation are all part of an interactive whole. If businesses are to thrive, that ecosystem must foster healthy human development. Businesses benefit from healthy, stable, economically viable families and communities, and well-educated employees, and bear some responsibility to contribute to an ecosystem that fosters them. Safe, stable, and affordable housing benefits all of us in the following ways. First, over 40,000 people commute to Edina on a daily basis. This means that 92% of jobs in Edina are held by commuters. To reduce carbon emissions and traffic congestion, they need to live here. The development of affordable workforce housing provides them that opportunity. Second, affordable housing makes it easier and less costly for employers to recruit and retain employees. Conversely, a lack of affordable housing where employees can a lack of affordable housing where employees work can put local economies at a competitive disadvantage. Third, affordable housing can provide households with additional disposable income. Especially if they live in Edina, their increased buying power goes directly to local businesses, or is likely to. Fourth, housing construction employs construction workers. A 100-unit apartment building, for example, affordable or not, creates 120 construction jobs. Residents of those 100 units also support the local economy. Fifth, affordable housing, especially single family and townhomes, brings additional children into Edina schools. Because state and federal funding to schools is based on per pupil enrollment, additional children in the district helps pay for additional teaching staff, counseling staff, and lowers class size, potentially boosting student performance. Finally, a recent housing study commissioned by the city from Maxfield Research and Consulting shows that Edina seniors living on fixed incomes that have not kept pace with the cost of living are in many ways the most squeezed by Edina's rising housing costs. Approximately a third of senior homeowners pay more than 30% of their income for housing, and that's true for 2/3 of senior renters. Most Edina seniors want to downsize and remain in the community, but they have difficulty finding affordable housing here. So they stay in their homes, and this contributes to a constricted market for first-time home buyers, often with children. Providing affordable senior housing, both rental and ownership, would remedy this, benefiting them, the city, the school district, and Edina businesses. So what did we accomplish towards the Metro Council's goal? The most important move the city made was to hire Stephanie Hawkinson, our affordable housing development manager. Edina was the first suburban city to do this, and others have followed suit. Having a full-time, experienced, and knowledgeable staff member devoted solely to this effort has made a huge difference. Hiring Stephanie was also a clear sign of the city's commitment to affordable housing. So this is what we've accomplished since about the middle of 2018 when Stephanie came on board. 3 market rate developments have opened with 36 affordable units. 2 market rate developments with a total of 14 affordable units are under construction. We preserved 2 existing affordable apartment buildings with a total of 34 units. 2 100% affordable multifamily buildings are city approved and fully funded for an additional 132 units. So this totals 224 affordable units, affordable housing units. The city also approved a fair housing policy. It created a rental licensure program that is key to enforcing health and safety regulations. Edina received state approval to use existing Southdale 2 TIF funding for affordable housing. The Edina Housing Foundation's Come Home to Edina program closed 6 loans in 2019. Marketing efforts have increased. That was a problem with that program for a while, and especially to organizations that serve underrepresented populations. The cap increased from 350 to 425,000 in hopes of expanding the pool of eligible households. That's a home ownership program. So now we have the coronavirus pandemic in front of us. What does the future hold for affordable housing? It's difficult to say because we're early into a long and slow economic and public health recovery. Nationally, we know that about 40% of young adults lived with their parents or other relatives last year. This is the highest point in 75 years, according to data from real estate analytics company Trulia. The number of millennials who fail to leave the nest has been climbing for the past 10 years, with this trend starting shortly before the Great Recession of 2008, but accelerating during the downturn and through the recovery. The main issue is likely the triple burden of low wages, high student debt, and rapidly escalating rents. The COVID-19 pandemic is likely to worsen this trend. There is an ominous new trend identified recently by the New York Times. The title of the May 2nd article is, "My Retirement Plan is You." Americans without retirement savings are increasingly moving in with their millennial children. Known as the reverse boomerang effect, the phenomenon of parents moving in with their adult children, often for financial reasons, is on the rise. According to a Pew Research Center analysis of population data, 14% of adults living in someone else's home in 2017 were a parent of the head of households, up from just 7% in 1995. And this trend will balloon in the coming decades as baby boomers leave the workforce, often prematurely, sometimes against their will, and they can't afford to support themselves in retirement. Expressed in starker terms, the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College has predicted that 50% of today's workers will not have enough savings to sustain their standard of living when they retire. According to the AARP Public Policy Institute, 1 in 5 Americans will be over the age of 65 by 2030, quote, and our nation will face a severe shortage of accessible and affordable housing to meet their needs, end quote. Pew researchers found that older adults were also significantly more likely to be living with their grown children in recent years than they were in the 1990s. Georgia Lee Hussey, a financial planner in Portland, Oregon, who has clients across the country, says, quote, "Most of my clients have at least one parent that needs to be factored into their financial plan. Currently, many Americans work hard all their lives, but still don't have enough savings to retire. Then suddenly their child realizes, oh, I'm going to have to take care of Dad. And it can lead to some incredibly difficult conversations. So I'll leave you with this, and I wish that I could be more optimistic. If you consider the ever-expanding portion of our population that needs affordable housing, reaching now deep into the middle class, and the fact that metro counties have spent approximately $500 million to rent hotel rooms as emergency shelters to protect the growing homeless and other vulnerable populations, it is painfully obvious that the current private and nonprofit housing system, if you could call it that, is not working. In spite of their best efforts, it wasn't addressing the scale of the crisis before the pandemic, and a slow and arduous economic recovery is likely to make it worse. Granted, the affordable housing crisis is a very complex issue, but to have this crisis on this scale in the world's wealthiest nation is a man-made, self-inflicted tragedy. The question is, do we care? And if we care, are we willing to come together and take responsibility for addressing it? And I'm not talking about charity, valuable though that is. Charity addresses the consequences of the crisis. I'm talking about social responsibility to address its root causes, which are high and growing inequality and decades of systematic racial discrimination. As the pandemic passes, the housing crisis remains and the climate crisis looms ahead. Do we have the courage, creativity, and moral imagination to respond as we did after the Great Depression? Because that's what we're facing, with bold solutions that address the scale of our challenges? I don't know. I hope so. Our future and the future of our children and grandchildren depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hope, for your very thoughtful presentation. And congratulations to Kathy Rendelman, this year's 2020 Chrysanne Manoles Women in Leadership Award winner. A couple things wanted to share with the membership coming up. Let me get back to this screen share here and show you what we have. So next week, actually tonight, we have our last Zoom side chat with Susan Stiles. If you haven't registered for that event, contact Becky, our club administrator. She can get you signed up. Next week, our presenter will be Sue Zhu from the University of Minnesota Office of Technology Commercialization. That's the tech incubator at the Discovery Nexus Center at the U of M. That'll be via Zoom. Then on Wednesday, June 3rd, we'll have our Rotary Happy Hour via Zoom. That Thursday, June 4th, Stevie Ray from Stevie Ray's Improv will be our speaker. The next week, Rand Park with the Carlson School of Management via Zoom. And then June 18th, John Kaufman will be traveling from the Peninsula Sunrise Club in Redwood City, California, to do a presentation on the SunSpring water filter, on water purifying projects all over the world. He's been running through his nonprofit H2 Open Doors. Also on June 18th, we're gonna have our first Zoom wine tasting event called Wines of Summer, facilitated by our Director of Social, Renee Harberts. Today's closing quote comes from Ayn Rand, a Russian-American writer and philosopher. Ayn is known for her two best-selling novels, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, and for developing a philosophical system she named objectivism. Educated in Russia, she moved to the United States in 1926, where she produced plays, wrote books, published her own periodicals, and released a series of very influential essays, all the way up until her time of death in 1982. Ayn said, "The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me." As you go about your week, remember that together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change. Across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves, as Rotary pursues its mission to connect the world in meaningful ways. Be safe, be well, and have a great week. Meeting adjourned.